Cara, olha ali, ó, aquela luz ali, o que é aquilo? Olha lá, ó, aquele fogo, o que é aquilo? Caralho, velho. Tô filmando. O que é isso, mano? Olha isso. Cara, olha ali, ó, aquela luz ali, o que é aquilo? Olha lá, ó, aquele fogo, o que é aquilo? Caralho, velho. Tô filmando. O que é isso, mano? Olha isso.
Огромную благодарность выражаю сотрудникам полиции, вот таким вот, которые бегут перед машинами, перед колонной.
About earlier in this newscast, it was not felt in the Bay Area, but look where it was. At 12:45 early this morning, off the coast of Monterey County. This is down around Big Sur. A 3.7 in a fairly unpopulated part of the state. And if we look at any of the reports for where people say they felt it, you can see there are some shaded areas on the map. The lighter the color, you know, that tells you it was felt fairly weakly, but there were some in the Central Valley and some as far south as down near Santa Barbara, but none in the Bay Area. But we watch these things very closely, and when they happen, we make sure we give you as much information as we have on them.
Kita tadi di ruang kebidanan.
Adiós, puestos. Mira nomás. I couldn't believe the sound. It was like a big screeching. It was horrifying.
And in Beverly and Lynn, too, mysterious explosions heard and felt on the North Shore.
It was just extremely loud and it shook the whole floor.
Emily lives in Salem. She was working from home when all of a sudden around 11:30 noon on Tuesday, she heard a loud boom.
It sounded like something in my basement exploded.
And a similar situation for Pauline Baldwin in Peabody near Forest and Summit Streets. She says her house shook violently.
I actually thought something was coming through my house. My house was shaking. It had tremors. When I ran from one end of my house to the other end of my house. That's how scared I was.
Dozens of people taking to social media to describe the loud explosions and ask where it came from, and also reached out to other departments, but no one has answers. Residents are nervous and want to know the cause.
I just basically wanted to be like, are we okay?
Thank you for joining us. A third COVID vaccine is now entering the supply chain in the U.S. The one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine got emergency approval from the FDA today. The vaccine supply in Colorado is expected to grow exponentially in the coming weeks. More than 1.2 million vaccine doses are expected to arrive by the end of March. So far, more than 1.3 million doses have been administered in our state. Many of those vaccinations have happened through health systems, clinics, and large pharmacy chains. Well, now, some smaller vaccine providers complain they're being left out. Connor McHugh spoke with the owner of a small, independent pharmacy who says she's set up to vaccinate people but isn't getting the chance to contribute. He's live tonight in Denver. Connor?
Yeah, Kathy, the owner here at Capitol Heights Pharmacy in Congress Park says she was approved to be a provider earlier this year, but has yet to see a single dose from the state. And she says she has friends and colleagues who also own similar size pharmacies that to her, and none of them are seeing them as well, yet they see thousands of doses going to big name chains every day.
At Capitol Heights Pharmacy,
Hey, and it's for Caroline.
Community trust is part of the business plan.
All right, I have the hydroxyzine and buspirone.
It's how owner Kristen Holmes is able to help countless customers every day, and why last year she began preparing to be the place they can get a COVID vaccine.
We're definitely financially motivated, but like to end this for our community, and we started it with them, and we've been in it with them for the last year, and we would help to end it for them.
Holmes has lined up volunteers, invested in scheduling software, and even bought an ultra-cold freezer for storage.
We have probably about $1,400 into this whole setup.
Earlier this year, the state approved her pharmacy as a provider, but has yet to send any doses.
They're going to Safeway, they're going to Walgreens now, they're going to King Soopers.
Holmes says many other independent-owned pharmacies she knows are in the same situation.
If I got 1,000 doses a week, I would put those in arms. I would do it.
The state's vaccine allocation is based on a number of factors, including which prioritized populations a provider serves and availability.
There's supply and demand. I understand that, but I don't understand why other places get the opportunity to act on this sooner than us.
Holmes is hopeful that will change, as pharmacies like hers have been vaccinating people for years.
I think they just think well, what are you really going to contribute? But I think we'd surprise you.
Now, Holmes says there is a financial aspect to all of this, too, an opportunity for them. She estimates they would get about $15 to $28 per shot, depending on if it's first or second shot. And again, for a place the size of this, she says that would go a long way. Today, we did reach out to CDPHE with some questions about pharmacies like this and how they fit into the state's allocation plan, but did not hear back. Live tonight in Denver, Connor McHugh covering Colorado First.
All right, we'll see you in a few, Dave. Thank you. We begin this morning with the coronavirus pandemic, and now there are 3. Last night, the FDA officially approved Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus vaccine. And even though Johnson & Johnson, this vaccine is not quite as effective as the other 2 from Pfizer and Moderna, this vaccine requires just 1 dose. With more on the announcement, we send it out to CBS 4's Bobeth Yates.
Having an additional safe and effective vaccine will help protect more people faster.
One day after an independent FDA advisory board recommended the approval of Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus vaccine, the agency gave the company a full emergency authorization to begin distribution.
The vaccine is highly effective in preventing severe COVID-19.
According to the FDA, Johnson & Johnson's vaccine is only 66% effective overall, much less than both Moderna and Pfizer. But its vaccine is 85% effective in preventing severe illnesses, and it provides complete protection against COVID-19 deaths 28 days after getting the shot.
I'm doing it out of the GEM Research Institute.
Mike Avila is one of the more than 200 people who participated in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine trial, and he says he's seen firsthand the benefits of the vaccine.
The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a 66% effectiveness rate, but the way it's explained to me is that means basically it's going to eliminate hospitalizations and death. Well, that's great news, considering what's been happening the last year.
The Johnson & Johnson vaccine has other advantages. It's one shot rather than two, and it can be stored for longer periods and in cooler temperatures. But the news of the third coronavirus vaccine approval comes as researchers find more contagious strains of the virus locally.
We're seeing about 25% of the positive samples actually reflect the UK, the variant that came over from England.
And the UK strain is just the tip of their discovery.
Which has been fascinating to see are strains from Brazil, California, New York. We are turning up a more diverse array of strains.
Again, Johnson & Johnson got its full authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine, which means they could be in stores as early as next week. In Pinecrest, Bobeth Yates, CBS 4 News.
For those who love making snowmen, the recent storm gave Denverites a lot to work with. But one Park Hill family stepped up and they slivered up maybe their game. The Mosley siblings spent 10 hours building, yes, a snow snake. All 6 brothers and sisters helped build and paint the huge snow sculpture. That is incredible. They say it took them about 10 hours, I believe it, to finish it. Dave, it's a good thing they took a picture because, well, it's probably gone partly.
And now more questions from the post office, or rather for the post office. Somewhere between dropping checks in the mail and them getting in the hands of who they are written to, they're disappearing. Over $100,000 worth.
That's right. It's a story we broke earlier this month. And now, as the post office acknowledges its investigation is underway, CBS 2 is learning the problem is getting worse.
To date, we're over 35,000 in checks that never made it to us.
That was nearly 3 weeks ago. Today,
it's up to 18 checks over $41,000.
Checks destined for this Southside packaging company and several neighboring businesses intercepted, then signed over to strangers who endorse, then cash under names like Diana, Betty, Kevin, Tamala, and Vise.
It's really anger now.
Anger at the scammers, the banks that allow it, and the 60632 post office that claims to be investigating it. Now someone cashing in is flipping the script, editing out Ken's company name altogether as the payee and inserting the name and actual address of someone in this suburb.
There's an actual place in Markham. I don't know if it's the actual person or somebody stole his information.
So we went to Markham to find out.
I work over at Channel 2. We're just trying to get in touch with...
The person whose name was edited onto that check does live here. He's 19, but no family wanted to talk either on camera...
We can turn the camera off if you'd rather...
...or off about whether he was a scammer or had his identity stolen to complete the scam.
More and more checks are disappearing. I would love to see people get the perp block out of the local branch, but I'm more concerned that this stops.
And to find out what's being done to stop it, we've repeatedly asked the post office how many cases like this are they handling and where they think this theft is occurring along the line exactly. They refuse to offer up any details on frequency or magnitude, claiming this is an open investigation. Ken, who you heard from in our story, says the post office had been helpful at the start. He thinks now they are just
say some things about aliens. You got me already. Now, people who already believe in aliens are going to know these things, so this is for people who don't yet believe, and maybe they'll consider it after hearing what I have to say. So, an American Airlines pilot saw something mysterious recently during a flight from Cincinnati to Phoenix. This was just on Sunday. A scanner picked up the pilot's radio call. Listen.
Have any targets up here? We just had something go right over the top of us that, I hate to say, this looked like a long cylindrical object. It almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast that went right over the top of us.
Now, American Airlines has confirmed that radio transmission. Pilots in this country are not known to see things. You know, they see pretty well. And this comes just a year after the Pentagon released 3 videos of unidentified flying objects, you may know them as UFOs, recorded by Navy fighter pilots. It also comes in the same year as an astronomer at Harvard named Avi Loeb says, affirmatively, aliens have visited. It's not kidding.
Maybe it's some Martians upset that we're spending all that time on their planet.
It could be. I mean, but the fact we're spending billions to search for alien life, I mean, NASA also believes there is a chance, and some people say it's already happened.
I think people see stuff.
Retaliation for a series of recent rocket attacks in Iraq, including one last week, which killed a U.S. contractor and wounded 6, including an American service member. The airstrikes on Syria's border with Iraq targeted facilities by the Iranian-backed militia responsible, according to President Biden's new Secretary of Defense.
We know what we hit, and we're confident that that target was being used by the same Shia militia that conducted the strikes.
It's President Biden's first known military action since taking office. The airstrikes were ordered by the president in the morning and carried out by the evening. The militia targeted included Kataib Hezbollah and Kataib Saeed al-Shahada, the US says. The group, calling itself the Guardians of Blood Brigade, had claimed responsibility for last week's attack. Days later, another attack in Iraq's Green Zone appeared to target the US Embassy in Baghdad. Iran has denied any links to the group, but the airstrikes could complicate the Biden administration's efforts to return to a nuclear deal with Iran.
We allowed and encouraged the Iraqis to investigate and develop intelligence, and that was very helpful to us in refining the target.
It is a proportionate response, the Pentagon says, sending an unambiguous message. President Biden will act to protect American personnel. And delicate diplomacy will have been involved here, Savannah. A limited strike inside Syria to avoid a backlash from Iraq while sending a message to Iran. And we're just hearing from Russia that it says it was given
the winds. Wow, look at this shot. Okay, so Stu, this is a very different shot than what we've been getting from you in the morning.
But it tells the story, doesn't it?
It really tells the story. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, Vinny making a beautiful picture right there, and it does tell the story. Photojournalism, that's what it's all about. This is a huge fire out in the Compton area. Vinny's pushing into what's going on down there. We've been talking about that bus yard, and the flames had been making their way over to that bus yard, and firefighters were trying to slow that progression. Take a look at that. These buses are on fire. There's more buses in that shot right there. And to add to all of this, just moments ago, you can see some of those transformers right there in that shot on that power line. We saw 2 massive explosions showering the firefighters and the fire trucks down there in sparks from an electrical explosions from those transformers. And then the power went out, not in the residential area, so this is definitely the grid is set up correctly. The residential home area stayed lit, but all this area where the fire is still in darkness. Now this is one of the problems that the firefighters have to deal with, one of the many dangers that firefighters have to deal with. Some of those power lines may have fallen down. They might not be energized now, but the system doesn't know what's going on, automated, so the power lines may come back to life, and these firefighters have to deal and understand that, so this is a dangerous situation for them as well. This is happening in the Compton area. This is going to be Santa Fe and Webb. When firefighters from Compton Fire first arrived out here, that fire well established in that pallet area, and this is what's burning down there. This is a great shot, Vinny. You can see that entire area that's on fire, except for the buses, is basically piles and piles of wood. Those are just wooden pallets out there, along with some industrial equipment, some outbuildings, an office or two, and we've been watching as all of that has been catching fire this morning. The heat so hot that aluminum melting on some of these trucks before the flames actually got there. So that gives you an idea of the intensity of the heat in that bulk of that fire in the center of that yard. That's one of the reasons why those firefighters couldn't make their way, just kind of go into that yard and get right up on that. Yeah, and I'm just hearing that we actually have some video where Vinny was on a wide shot. You just don't know when these things explode, but this kind of shows you that number of explosions down there, electrical explosions, as the fire departments are battling these flames, and then all of a sudden you have these huge explosions going off, and in one of them you can actually see those sparks and showering some of those fire trucks. So this is what the firefighters are dealing with. This is how they're trying to fight this fire, contain it. That's all they can do right now. They can't actually get in there and put that fire out. So they're going to let that fire burn. Basically, those pallets burn, but what they can do is they can try to keep it from spreading to the other buildings out there. This is in Compton. You can clearly see this. We're very close to the 105. We're very close to the 710. But this morning, Skyfox, we could see this fire from the Cahuenga Pass making our way down here. No injuries. The firefighters, no injuries.
Rising over the area from miles away. It broke out near Santa Fe Avenue and Banning Street. And CBS 2's Tina Patel is live with a look at the damage left behind. Tina, you've been there all morning. What do you have for us?
Well, DeMarco, it took more than 3 hours for this fire to get under control, and it could take several more hours for the cleanup and mop up. You can still see that there's smoke rising from those yards. Thankfully, there were no serious injuries, but take a look at this video and you can see just how dangerous it was this morning. Whoa! That's the voice of photojournalist Dave Gonzalez. He was live on the air this morning, showing us just how intense this industrial fire in Compton was when all of a sudden an electrical transformer blew right next to him.
It was a combination of sound and spark. It was kind of like a fireworks going on the left side of me.
Dave immediately backed up, and thankfully he was okay. But it was a close call, not just for him, but for some truck drivers who had gotten blocked in because of the road closures caused by the fire.
And we thought we were at a certain distance, a safe distance. When the transformers started popping, the line started falling, and we were standing there. It fell down on us, hit me on the arm. It gave me a small jolt.
Power did go out for some people who lived near the fire, but crews were able to keep the flames from spreading to their neighborhood. Still, it took firefighters more than 3 hours to get control of the blaze as it spread from a pallet yard to a yard full of buses.
There's propane tanks, there's all that wood that's fueling the fuel, and there's not enough water. I guess they're running out of water. That's what the fire department was saying.
Firefighters say there were some issues with water pressure at one point, but that got resolved, and with the help of crews from around the region, the fire was contained. Despite the dangerous conditions, only one firefighter suffered a minor ankle injury, and no one was seriously hurt by the downed power lines. Vega doesn't want to think about what could have happened.
I just thank God I'm here because I got 4 girls, and I'm lucky.
Back out here live, Edison is still trying to restore power to everyone, and investigators are still trying to figure out exactly where and how this fire started and just how much damage was done to these businesses. DeMarco, we'll send it back to you.
Again, grateful for no major injuries. Tina, thank you.
Will make a triumphant return to the White House, and I wonder who that will be.
Now at 6:30, former President Trump hints at a comeback, but in his first public address since leaving office.
CBS correspondent Nancy Chen reports he gave strong hints, but not answers to the big question: will he run again?
Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a third time, okay?
In his first public event since leaving office more than a month ago, former President Trump came out swinging, telling supporters he's far from the twilight of his political leadership.
I want you to know that I'm going to continue to fight right by your side. We will do what we've done right from the beginning, which is to win. We're not starting new parties.
Mr. Trump, who never formally conceded the 2020 election after challenging the results for weeks, slammed his successor.
Joe Biden has had the most disastrous first month of any president in modern history. That's true. Already the Biden administration has proven that they are anti-jobs, anti-family, anti-borders, anti-energy, anti-women, and anti-science.
Before the former president was set to take the stage, Ohio Representative Jim Jordan asserted Mr. Trump's role as party leader.
Leader of the conservative movement, the leader of the American First movement, the leader of the Republican Party, and I hope on January 20th, 2025, he is once again the leader of our great country.
The former president, who repeated false claims that the election was fraudulently stolen from him, also said the Republican Party remains strong and united.
The only division is between a handful of Washington, D.C. establishment political hacks and everybody else all over the country. I think we have tremendous unity.
Mr. Trump also blamed so-called rhinos, Republicans in name only, for any division. Nancy Chen, CBS News.
The former president ended by saying the GOP will also take back the house. Tree killed a young physics researcher at a Bay Area COVID testing lab. His family says the recent college grad had just started working there. KPIX5's Da Lin is live in Burlingame where it happened. Da.
Julia, this is the tree right here that crushed that young man. Family members say they still don't have a lot of information about what all happened. They feel like they're being left in the dark.
At a very early age, he knew that he wanted to be in the physics or engineer field. He knew exactly where he was going in life.
Family members say Khalil Gay was excited about his new job, working for Color, a lab that provides COVID-19 testing for a few San Francisco city-run sites.
Khalil had just called his parents to check in.
But that excitement quickly turned into tragedy on his third day on the job.
He was walking with a coworker of his.
Authorities told the family around 4 o'clock Friday afternoon, a tree fell and killed the 23-year-old while they were walking from one building to another on Mitten Road in Burlingame. No word on the condition of the co-worker. The physics researcher had just graduated from Cal State East Bay in December. His parents are dealing with a lot of pain.
Not eating and just not being able to think clearly. You have a 23-year-old son who did everything in life right. Followed the plan, took the coaching, went in the direction of greatness, and he's not here.
His aunt and brothers tell me he was a kind, peaceful man, a devoted Muslim, and a hard worker.
If he really loves something, he's going to put his complete 1,000% into whatever he's handling.
An arborist tells me from the pictures I sent him, this was a Brazilian pepper tree. He says it likely had root rot issues. A Color spokesperson released a statement saying, "We are devastated and heartbroken by the tragic loss of a member of the Color team. Our team is in shock and grieving this incredible loss. Our deepest sympathies are with his family and friends." Alexandria Real Estate owns and manages the property. The company says they're working with authorities to find out why it happened. They say, "We were shocked and saddened to learn of the accident that occurred during Friday's windstorm, which tragically resulted in this accidental death." The family says Color hasn't reached out to them. They're disappointed and have a lot of questions.
I feel like the world truly is going to be a little bit dimmer because Khalil is not here to give his skills and his love and his knowledge.
Our hearts go out to his family, and obviously the question you have to ask is, who's responsible for the tree, the maintenance record? How could something like this happen?
Right, that's the big question, and that's what the family is trying to find out. No response from the city of Burlingame.
We also enters a new phase in the COVID vaccine rollout today. Education, child care, food, agriculture, and emergency service workers became eligible to get the shots. And we were there when farm workers started getting their first dose at a mushroom farm in Morgan Hill. As KPIX5's John Ramos reports, this special clinic is highlighting the importance of their work.
If we consider those who sell us our food in the grocery store to be essential workers, what does that make the people who produce that food in the first place? Monterey Mushrooms in Morgan Hill grows its entire crop indoors. That makes COVID-19 especially dangerous here. Just ask Anastasio Cruz, who caught the virus back in April and is still dealing with its effects.
Why things happen to me? I don't know why I was the first one.
So today felt like a godsend as the county, in partnership with the United Farm Workers Union, set up a vaccination clinic at the mushroom plant to begin inoculating 1,000 ag workers from the area.
And this is our first big mobile pop-up where we need to come to where people are and reach them.
That's essential to protect farm workers because while most are eager to get the vaccine, many don't have the mobility to travel to a mass vaccination site or can afford to take a day off to do it.
It's been a challenge to get counties to actually start to trigger the farm worker priority. But Santa Clara County is showing us how it needs to be done throughout the state.
The mushroom company's president says we owe that to them and to ourselves.
The food supply is a significant part of national security, and we don't need any disruption in the food supply. And our teammates, the ag workers, have risked their life every day to make sure there is no disruption.
Mario Martinez Francisco knows the risk, but he still leaves his family in Hollister every day to come here. So he happily got his shot today, saying it makes him feel more confident, but understanding that he is part of a much bigger picture.
I do this for me and for my wife and my co-workers. So for everybody, I think, not only for my family, it's for everybody.
In Morgan Hill, John Ramos, KPIX.
Information tonight on the vandalization of statues at Mount Carmel. We've learned that the area had recently been cleaned up before the destruction. First Ward Councilman Julius Oliver tells us that he, code enforcement, and the church worked on that area. He says he was initially shocked and then angry to hear of the destruction.
Recently just did like some great work cleaning up that area, cleaning up the property, trying to make sure the surrounding area was cleaned up, and they do quite a bit of work up there maintaining and beautifying that area. So I mean, for somebody to go and do something like that was quite disheartening.
Police have arrested 20-year-old Caleb Van Kampen, suspected of causing nearly $20,000 worth of damage, and he's expected to appear
today. The
in
Philadelphia
court.
Police Department joined with City Council and local organizations for yet another gun buyback. Eyewitness News went to both Mount Carmel Baptist Church in West Philadelphia and Mount Airy Church of God in Christ in Ogons, where anyone could turn in a gun, no questions asked. The event allowed people to get rid of weapons and get a $100 ShopRite gift card. Organizers say every firearm turned in is important.
Getting guns out of households that could end up being used on the streets. A lot of guns are stolen out of households and cars. Those guns end up on the streets, so we know that this effort works.
Well, today's event was described a big success. A total of 156 firearms were turned in.
Columbus Public Health says COVID-19 vaccine registration is temporarily closed. The agency tweeted the closure is because of website maintenance. Columbus Public Health says registration will resume Monday morning starting at 9 a.m.
A call for action tonight as Sacramento City Council members making a plea on behalf of the homeless community in the wake of another death on the streets. A man was found dead this morning at 𝐶𝐎𝐍 Park, right across the street from City Hall.
CBS 13's Ryan Hill is live in Sacramento with the new concern. Ryan.
Councilmember Katie Valenzuela says that she was heartbroken after hearing another homeless person had died here at 𝐶𝐎𝐍 Park. Sacramento police are telling CBS 13 that an officer responded to the park at around 7:30 this morning after fire crews found a man who was dead. Police also say the coroner is taking over the investigation and the cause of death is still being looked into. The overnight death comes after several months of heated debate at City Council over the homeless crisis in Sacramento. A deadly storm hit the homeless hard while warming centers were left closed. When overnight warming centers were opened, several COVID-positive tests forced them to close. Valenzuela is calling to get these individuals indoors and the city must move quickly. She is saying that city staff was proposing to move money from the warming centers and move it towards paying for hotels. She opposes this and wants more to be done for the homeless.
We could fund that money with something else, so it just feels like we keep shuffling the resources around. They're never growing and they're never significant or substantial enough to deal with the crisis that we have.
Sac PD tells me that there was no foul play involved in this death so far in their investigation. Again, the coroner is investigating this as the investigation has been turned over to them.
Dozens of people learned this week about a mistake with their first vaccine shots, and they don't know what comes next. Our David Schumann has the story that has more questions than answers.
I'll wait for Hy-Vee to give me the official solution.
The post-vaccine shot emotional high
I was glad to get it.
was ripped away from Dick Cecchini with an ominous phone call the next day.
Hey, we got a problem. They're supposed to dilute it with a saline solution, and they did it with sterile water. So we don't know anything. Just hang tight. We'll get a hold of you.
The Hy-Vee pharmacy Dick went to in Mankato mixed the doses wrong for 62 people. Hy-Vee told him 2 days later there was no reason for medical concern. The questions now lie with how protected will Dick and the others be from COVID.
The first shot, does it do any good? What happens after the second shot? Do you have the same coverage?
Hy-Vee doesn't know. Dick reached out to Pfizer personally. He says they don't know.
Well, Pfizer doesn't know. Who does know? I'm in limbo.
Hy-Vee says whatever the outcome is, Dick and the others won't have to search or wait for another appointment.
I'm fairly tolerant of mistakes because I'm old and I've made a million of them myself, right? It's how fast do you fix it?
David Schumann, WCCO 4 News.
The Minnesota Health Department says it's not likely that these patients will have to start their vaccination cycles over. MDH is waiting for confirmation on that from Pfizer.
Getting their first doses of the COVID vaccine in the morning. Law enforcement officers are among those who are now eligible to get it. ABC 10 News reporter 𝐃𝐎𝐍'𝐓 joins us live. Cassie, we learned that it's been a little challenging for officers to get in line to get their doses.
It has been, Vanessa. You know, those law enforcement officers are going to get a little help, though. Tomorrow, Scripps Memorial Hospital in La Jolla is going to be administering shots to police officers. Out there earlier today, let me show you what it looked like. There were a few signs out indicating where to go if you have an appointment to get a vaccine. Officers will be coming at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Law enforcement became eligible for the vaccine on Saturday, so that was just yesterday. But with delayed shipments of the Moderna vaccine, the Petco Park Superstation shut down, leaving officers and deputies lining up with everyone else in Phase 1B to get their vaccine. We were not told how many law enforcement personnel will get vaccinated, but tomorrow's opportunity will be extremely helpful for those in uniform. And Phase 1B also includes folks like teachers, farmers, as well as grocery store workers. Reporting live from home, Cassie Carleo.
Developing story. A second outage in 3 days in the Bronx has residents there frustrated and wanting answers. This as one family continues to mourn the loss of a woman who died during the first blackout. CBS 2's Dave Carlin reports.
This Co-op City resident was carried out of a cold and powerless apartment building and loaded into an ambulance as several towers in this Bronx neighborhood again went dark Sunday morning. No power for much of the day in Building 8.
It's bad, and Friday too, same thing. And I work from home, I can't work, they can't do their schoolwork, it's terrible.
During the outage Friday, 73-year-old Ada Longmore died. Family members say she was alone climbing flight after flight in Building 7 to get to her 19th floor unit, carrying an oxygen tank which was found empty. Longmore's daughter said her mother came here from the island of Jamaica less than 10 years ago and worked in health care. Here in Building 7, the power is back on, and this is the 19th floor stairwell where some police tape remains. Also remaining many questions.
Our hearts go out to the family and to this woman. She was our neighbor.
We asked what went wrong at this news conference where we found politicians and leaders of River Bay Corporation, which runs the 35 buildings that make up this community.
There could be several causes, and we have to eliminate them one at a time. Building 8, where there was the initial transformer fire, we have isolated that, and we're hooking it up to the generator. It's taking 6 hours to hook that generator up.
Co-op City generates its own power supply and distributes it to residents. After 2 outages for 8 buildings over 3 days, some tenants feel vulnerable.
When it doesn't work, we're on our own. We cannot get help from Con Ed, and we're at a loss.
Get to the bottom of what happened and that this doesn't happen again.
Longmore is survived by a husband and 5 adult children, 4 daughters and a son. In Co-op City, the Bronx, Dave Carlin, CBS.
Some breaking news now in Natomas. A Walmart store just reopened after someone set off fireworks inside the Truxell Road location. Investigators say someone placed fireworks inside the men's department and set them off about 2:45 this afternoon. An employee put the small fire out with an extinguisher, but the store was evacuated while firefighters cleared out the smoke and chemicals. No one was hurt.
A violent night in and around Atlanta. 13 people shot in less than 24 hours. 3 of those shootings were triple shootings, and one of them a shooting involving an off-duty state trooper. At least 1 person has died. We're getting an exclusive look tonight at how one of those triple shootings unfolded in the Oakland City neighborhood. That is in southwest Atlanta. This happened around 6:45 this morning. Neighbors there spoke with Joe Ripley, sharing their concerns about the crime potentially impacting the kids who live in that community.
Police cars parked along Peoples Street in southwest Atlanta. Dozens of evidence markers dotted the scene where 3 people were shot Sunday morning. All 3 went to the hospital, with 1 in critical condition, 2 in stable condition.
This vehicle pulls up and they stay there for about a minute.
A neighbor shared this surveillance footage with us. They requested we change their voice. Nearly 45 seconds after the vehicle rolls out of view, a barrage of bullets over 15 seconds. Surveillance then shows the SUV backing up and driving off. Daylight revealed a home riddled with bullets and shattered glass. Posted on the home, a legal notice reading "Stop Work" issued 4 days before the shooting. Several other homes on the street have similar notices.
And knowing that this is something that goes on around the whole neighborhood, and it is a scary thing.
Neighbors say it's typically quiet here on People's Street, but Sunday morning shooting has caused quite the concern, especially among those neighbors with young children.
Sometimes, you don't feel safe.
Another neighbor told us the gunfire woke up his grandkids. They thought the shooting sounded like fireworks or thunder.
I've been here almost 17 years. It's okay, but these things that happen, we're scary,
If it had not been during a pandemic, there would have been kids walking back and forth, or people going to work that might not be going to work right now.
Officers have not given any information about a gunman. Neighbors are pleading with police and Atlanta City Council to curb the crime in the area before more harm happens.
And that was Joe Ripley reporting for us. 3 other incidents happened overnight at nightclubs, 2 in Atlanta and 1 in Mableton, where shots were fired, but no one there was struck. 3 people were shot while leaving the Blue Flame on Harwell Road. Atlanta police say the men were leaving the club around 4:30 this morning when a car pulled up and opened fire towards the club. No word tonight on any suspects there. Atlanta police say 1 man was shot at the Gold Room on Piedmont Road. Police say he was involved in a fight inside the club when he was shot. We're told witnesses were unable to pinpoint a suspect. And over in Mableton, Cobb County police say shots were fired at the Sky Lounge, but we're told no one was hit.
you.